do it for yourself. That's my number one thing that I tell everybody.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Welcome to the Talk About the Magic podcast, where you'll find inspiration and encouragement tied together with the magic of Disney. Now, here's your host, Joseph Ballesteros.
What is going on, Magicteers? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Thank you so much for taking out the time and giving me your time to talk with you today on this podcast. Today we have an interview. I told you it's not always just going to be me. So if you are tired of hearing only my voice, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We got Luis from Disney Nuts. His Instagram account has grown over 159,000 followers there. He has some amazing Disney photography. He's been featured multiple times with Disney. And more interestingly, which is what we'll get into in today's show, he's doing this for the love of doing this. He's not trying to, he has a normal style, 9-to-5 job. He has a family. He's doing this for the love and sheer joy of spreading happiness through his images. And so that's, to me, that might even take a little more passion than the normal passion I'm referring to. Because normally, when we find a goal or something, we have that, reward waiting for us. If we're trying to lose weight, we're going to lose weight. We see that reward on us. If we're trying to, start our own business and we start getting customers or income that way, there's a reward there. With Luis, his rewards a lot of times aren't known because people don't express it to him. And if they do, it's through usually a little heart button that's on Instagram. So, it's one of those things where he's doing it surely for wanting to spread that kind of joy and magic. So, got some great tips coming up if you're an Instagrammer or a photographer who's looking into getting into spreading images on through Instagram. He has some great tips as well. Before we get into today's show, though, I do want to say thank you again, guys, for everything that you've done already. If you want to continue helping the show, please be sure to spread the word. That is honestly the best way, by spreading the word and leaving a review. If you go to iTunes, you leave a review there, that really, really helps out the show. It takes 2 minutes, nothing, it's whatever you want to put, just giving it a rating and a small, quick review helps out immensely. So I would greatly appreciate if you head over and do that. Of course, all the other information will be in today's show notes, so be sure to check that out. Without further ado, let's get into our interview with Luis. Hello, Luis. How are you doing? Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for those kind words. I love having you on. I've been following you for some time. And I was really into your live streams that you would do, especially on Instagram. Now that I seem to be focused on Instagram a lot, and you're one of the accounts that I've been following for a while. Is looking at all the pictures that you do at the parks there, and so I was really excited to have you on to talk with you on the show. But for some of the people who may not know who Luis is, can you just give kind of a brief background of what it is, or not what it is, but who is Luis?
Oh, okay, sure. So yeah, my account is Disney Nuts, and Luis is a person who's got I've basically been taking photos like with I guess you would say professional camera, probably for the last 3 years since I have my account. And many of my shots, what I've been doing is, since I work, regular job from 8 to 5, I usually head over to the parks after hours. So that's why many of my shots are night shots. So I guess over time I've been getting pretty good at it because it's something different. Yeah, it's something different that people like to see and stuff like that. So little by little, I've been putting photos on Instagram there, sometimes 2 to 4 photos a day, and little by little I've been gathering a pretty nice following, made a ton of friends along the way and everything. Like I said, shooting with a professional camera, I guess since 3 years back, Canon camera and stuff like that, and I do it for fun. I'm not really a professional. I don't work for PhotoPass or anything like that. It's just a hobby that I do. My wife got me a camera a couple of years ago saying, I need to get you a hobby. I need to get you out of the house. So that's where the camera arrived. Yeah. And I guess the rest is history. Little by little, I've been taking photos, and it's, been featured here, been featured there.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
That's what I say. We're going to get into that because you have been featured quite a bit, and I wanted to kind of go into this because the purpose of the show is always focuses talking to doers, not just people who are dreaming, but people who are actually doing. And what I love, first off, obviously, like you said, you have a 9 to 5, and that's because you really don't want to take this to a different level. You love what you're doing now. You aren't necessarily pursuing a different, goal with it. But I'd love to kind of get into that as far as, because what you're doing, I've tampered in photography. Okay, I'm not the professional. It's like, but I understand how much work goes into finding that shot, and I'd love to get into that as far as why. You know what I mean? What makes you do this? Because again, like, you have over 100,000 followers on Instagram, which is amazing in itself, but being that you do have a job and everything, what makes you say, I'm going to go to Disney and I'm going to try to get this shot? Because it's not going to be a 10-minute kind of trip, So what is that motivation that gets you to do that?
I don't know. I guess it's a couple of things. For example, one of the things that I like to do when I go to the parks is actually see the people. And it's funny because it really is a happy place. And for me, it is as well. I like to go over there and see people smiling, people having fun. So just that alone makes the trip worth it. But I do go in sometimes with a plan. Many times I'll go in with a plan. I'll say, okay, I want to shoot this. I want to shoot that. And then, I'll go for a couple of hours and stuff like that. But I'm always trying to improve what I've done before, And I'll be honest with you, I shoot something, I'll come home, and many times it doesn't come out as I want it to be. And I'll be honest with you, when I started, many of the stuff looked terrible. I'd shoot parades and stuff look all overexposed and white and terrible and out of focus, and the cameras, you basically have to know what you got and tinker with it, and I swear some of these cameras sometimes have moods and stuff like that, so you gotta you gotta somehow work the thing, and a lot of practice. I'll be honest with you, I'll take thousands of photos. I got thousands of photos there that probably will never see the light of day, but some of them are good, some and little editing here, little editing there. And as for improving, I guess, like I said, I just try to improve myself all the time. I see something, I say, I could do this a little better, and I go back and I try it again. And there is a lot of work behind it. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes some night shots, some of them are even 5 shots, and you put them together. You do what they call bracketing, which is where you taking different exposures. You get a real dark one, you get a real bright one, you get one in the middle that's basically right. That way the signs are not, all white and like that. So there is a pretty fun process to it.
Now for all the tech people out there, what kind of camera are you actually using?
Well, it's funny because I started with a Canon T3, which was actually, when I bought it, it actually gone out of production for a couple of months. So it was actually an old camera, and I was using the default lens. So I always run into people who have like really good cameras, and I'll be honest with you, it's the person who's behind the camera. If you know what you're shooting and you can find like a good angle, any camera will do. Even an iPhone, to be honest with you, if you know what you're doing and you know what you want to get and you know the tools that are out there, you can accomplish a lot. But right now I actually shoot with a Canon 80D, which I got a couple of months ago. And as for fancy lens, it's recently got like a year ago, Sigma f2.8, which is 17 to 55. So that's my gear right now, and that's what I take to the parks, and memory card, and shoot away. And a couple of hours visit will probably take easy 200, 300 shots, to be honest with you. And that's what I use.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had been talking to Megan. She was on here from Mickey's Premium account.
Oh, yes, Megan. And, she's great.
Yeah, and I had been talking to her, and I had been telling her that, I switched over to the Sony line, which is mirrorless now. And
yes.
I've enjoyed it very much, but I've heard really good things for the Canon and everything like that. Especially, and the thing is, if you got lenses already, you don't really want to leave the family, because then you got a bunch of lenses you can't really use per se, unless you buy an adapter. So.
Exactly.
Now,
yep. And I looked at the Sony, but I already had lenses, so I had the stuff invested. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
Just keep on with the Canon. Yeah.
Now, I mean, looking again at your stuff, I the points that you make, I love, because it's true. It's you take thousands of pictures, and I think people don't understand. When we look at accounts like yours that make it look so good, and you think like, oh, it's easy. I'm gonna go and just take a picture. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, maybe there's a photographer listening. Maybe they're not wanting to take Disney pictures per se, but they're wanting to get into picture taking. And I think what you said is key. It really is. It's not about taking the perfect shot. It's about taking shots and finding the perfect one.
That is correct.
You know what I mean? And so seeing what you do there, and so how did you even get started? Like, did you, because you were featured on especially on Twitter. I noticed a lot on some of the stuff with the Disney account there and everything like that. Is that something that they reach out to you? Did you just kind of tag them and then let them respond in that way?
Yeah, no, actually, I've been having, like I said, I ran the account for 3 years, but it was only until last year that they finally shared one of my photos. Yeah, you use the hashtag Walt Disney World, and I'll sometimes tag them on the picture per se, and that's it. Like I said, the first 2 years, I got no response, anything whatsoever. I'm like, okay, just keep going. but the last year and a half has been great. It's between the Disney one, the Walt Disney World, they have another one, which is Best Day Ever, and Disney Springs. I've been featured, I think, 15 times already. So
That's awesome.
I'm honored each time they share a photo. It's what can I say?
Yeah, that's definitely awesome. I mean, that's something where all of a sudden I'm thinking like, maybe I should go apply for a position there, see what happens.
Yeah, true.
So, because now, like I said, you had been doing some live feeds and stuff, and I remember seeing one live feed. You had I think you had a camera set up on a tripod. I think you had another camera on your side. You had your live streaming with the phone. So, what is kind of your typical setup when you're actually doing something like this? How much time is it that you're gonna be taking? Do you set up a block where you say like, you know what, I'm gonna do this for about 30-45 minutes, or do you just kind of wing it and just say we'll see how it feels and go with that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. And many times if it's like a fireworks thing, which is where I have the tripod, I'll mount the camera right on top where the flash goes. So that helps for the live streaming stuff because it doesn't shake or anything. And I'll just wing it. To be honest, with the live stuff, I really don't have any plan. I'll just walk around the parks and, show the people how it is at that moment, tell the people how the weather is. And so, and I'm not really a live person, to be honest with you. I've tried it a couple times, and it's great, and people love it. The response is always great. But sometimes you can't do the two things at the same time. Like you can't. It's just. I'd love to do it, but sometimes you can't. And because when you start using the camera, then you got to look for the framing, which means you got to move around for the good shot, and you can't be holding the camera the camera phone at the same time. So it becomes interesting.
Now, what would you suggest to, let's say, an Instagrammer who's kind of getting into this field? Because it's something that I obviously you and a lot of other photographers I've seen on Instagram especially will always have this repost with credit because obviously you don't want to get stuff stolen or anything like that. But what is something difficult that you kind of had to learn when getting into the social media field with pictures that maybe you could let some other photographers know, like, hey, be aware, or this might happen, you might get this, but stick it through kind of deal.
Yeah, okay, sure. For me, when I started a lot, because the question I get a lot is like settings, like what setting do you use? I'll go to a site, which I have a bunch of friends also, like on Flickr and some of the other stuff that actually show you the settings. So let's say you can go to Flickr and type in Walt Disney World fireworks, and it'll show you a bunch of people who's taken shots, and 99% of the people will leave the settings because by default it'll show the camera settings. And I'll use that and say, oh, look, that's what they use. I'm going to try that the next time I go out. And at the real beginning, I actually had a notepad right on my phone. I said, okay, you're going to try this with f-stop 2 and, shutter speed, and try that and try this. And little by little, seeing what people have done, and the settings, you try it on your camera and you say, oh, this looks good. This looks bad. That's one thing, at least for the settings. And then as for posting, which is another really hard thing to sort of like decipher, is probably the times that you post. Like I won't post like really late at night because I just find that people won't see them. So I'll post something, I'll be honest with you, like, let's say 10 a.m. and I'll post another one probably at 4 p.m. And that has proven, at least for me, a really good time, to post, which people see it. So I think that will be one of the first things I recommend, post frequent, but don't spam people. So 2 to 3 photos or 4 photos a day. But but don't post like 10 or 12 a day expecting, get a bunch of likes, because once you start spamming people, I've found that it's not, it doesn't help.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think that's a huge question nowadays, because especially people who are really wanting to get into this and want to share their work and stuff. And I think, I think you're right. It kind of just depends on what you're doing. But, if you are doing pictures like that, you don't want, somebody doesn't want to open their feed and just see like, well, this is the same person like 15 times.
Exactly.
Just you do a little bit here, do a little bit there. But, you want to do multiple. That's all.
Yeah, you leave them wanting to see the next photo, which is somewhat what I try to do also. You put a good stuff. And also another thing that I do a lot, I follow like the traditional hashtag, let's say Monorail Monday or Spaceship First Sunday and stuff like that. And that helps, because if you're posting, every day for every week, every month, every year, so comes a time that you need to have some type of guideline for yourself to post. And I'll come up with stuff, let's say today, Wednesday, World Showcase Wednesday, or Where Is Everybody Wednesday, which is the shots where nobody's in them, or Water Wednesday, or stuff like that. Yeah, and it makes it fun for yourself also, and you take a shot and say, I'm going to save this one for Wednesday, I'm going to save this one for Thursday.
I love it. Get creative with it. I love that. Yeah, definitely. Exactly. And so how has your overall, because this is a question that I just started asking people, because I think it's an important one, but how has your mindset changed from the beginning of doing this to where you're at now? And I don't necessarily mean in Instagram. I just mean in general. Like, has your confidence gone up? Has your do you find yourself getting more frustrated quicker? Like, what has changed with you since doing what you've done for this long?
Wow. Yes. I guess my hardest thing, I guess, would probably be, if I post a photo now, I don't know what I'll post afterwards, because I'm always trying to top myself,
Yeah.
Like, oh, this one looks great, and this one looks awesome, and got a bunch of comments and whatever. And then I'm like, oh, I can't post this one after, because it's not going to get the same effect and stuff like that. But besides that, no, I love it, to be honest with you. The ability to be able to meet people and go out into parks, and people say, hey, your photos are great, I love them. And even the comments, the comments make it so worth it. When somebody says, I just came back from vacation and I see your stuff and it makes me want to go back again. It's my happy place. I love seeing your photos in the morning. It makes me happy. And, my daughter loves them, and, it's stuff like that. It just makes it all worth it, man. It makes you keep going.
Yeah. I always bring that up, because to me, it's always interesting, because, we do what we do. And when you do something because you're passionate about it, or because you love it, you truly enjoy it, I always find it's funny how we do it longer. We don't, the hiccups that come, the frustrations that come with it, don't seem to really matter as much to where it knocks us down and makes us want to quit when we're that passionate about it. Seeing the way your account has grown and the way it is, I mean, what's exciting to me is it seems like if something was to happen to Instagram, you would just start sharing pictures somewhere else. You know what I mean? It's just something that you'd love to do. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and again, when you get the comments from the people, it makes it all worth it, to be honest with you. Like, all the time of going out there and, taking the 5 shots and putting the tripod and, bringing in the tripod, which is always the fun part, because it's heavy, and carrying that stuff around, doing the World Showcase 2 times around, and so all of a sudden somebody says, oh, your photos are great, I'm here in United Kingdom, and it's 20 degrees right now, and and your photos are so warm and they make me happy. So yeah, it makes it all worth it, definitely.
Now, have you had any, like, I guess this will fall into the next question. My question was going to be, what would you suggest someone who wants to kind of get into this same style thing? Maybe they're going to their own parks in their own cities, or maybe even with Disney or Universal, but what would be some suggestions? This is more like a technical question. Like, have you had any problems with your tripod? Do you recommend, maybe trying to catch a later show? Do you, like, how do you avoid, situations? I've been to Disney at times when it is so packed where I think if some, and I know you don't, I know you don't do this, but I'm just, as a suggest, like, I'm just saying that if somebody was to put a tripod in the middle of people, it would not end well. So yes, and I've tried that, actually. I've tried that. Oh yes, I've tried that, where I've set up the tripod at the end of the street, and all of a sudden everybody comes in at the last moment, and
and the kid and the parent probably put the kid on top of their shoulders, and yeah. I guess just plan. For example, um, I'll try to get shots probably like the second shows. I'll probably not do like the opening show of something. I'll probably do like a couple days afterwards because usually the first show it's always crazy. So that's probably my first thing. Just try to do something that is off season. I guess that's another thing that I'll do. Like for example, the night shots that I have of Main Street that are actually empty. That actually was taken off season, so it wasn't that late. Magic Kingdom closed at 8, and I was able to take that shot probably like at 10 o'clock, and I will still be able to go home and go to work the next day. So that's one thing. As for equipment wise, bringing it in, make sure everything is as for a tripod, you can bring in the tripod like all extended and stuff like that. It has to be that it fits inside a bag, or if it somewhat hangs off of the side of the bag, it's not more. I think it's not more than 14 inches is that they're saying on the website. Never had any issues, thankfully. So just make sure the tripod is compact and doesn't weigh a lot, because you're the one who's going to be carrying it. So yeah. And if you don't want to bring a tripod, you can always bring a little tripod, something small, and shoot off of the trash cans, which I did for the first year. Actually, I shot off all the right off of the Disney trash cans, and they came out great. It also gives like yeah, and they come up. You got different angles and stuff like that instead of the straight shots and stuff like that. For fireworks, a tip that I usually give people is don't try to shoot from the front of the castle, because you'll run into that issue that you just mentioned. Everybody comes in at the last moment. So I always try to shoot like different stuff from, Gaston's Tavern, or from, Little Mermaid, where you got the Little Mermaid and the stuff exploding in the back. So, yeah, that's another thing that I would say, try different angles.
Now, how have you been able to kind of balance everything, being that, this is something that whether you're making money from it or not, or, trying to do this full time or not, like, you still are having to give up the most important thing that any of us have, which is time, right? I mean, that's the most valuable thing we have to offer. So how have you been able to balance this? I mean, what is some of the things that you had to do to say, okay, this is something I want to do, and I'm going to maybe even give up something else in order to do this?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, I try to balance it, like you said, with the family as well. I try to limit it to at least 2 times a week. That if I go, many times I'll go on Monday afternoons right after work, because Monday's usually you're coming out of work, there's traffic. I said I'd rather go to Disney and be there a couple of hours and stay in traffic on a Monday. Yeah, so Monday I'll usually do. That's probably the first thing. I'd probably do like 2 days a week. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I'll go and I won't be able to grab any good shots, and as hard as that sounds, but sometimes it's just, just the camera is moody that day, or the skies are gray and you can't get some good cloud shots. And so it all depends. And then the second day usually be usually a Friday or over the weekend. And then those days I'll stay late and do night shots with the, try to get it without the people in the park and stuff like that. So yeah, I try to balance it out, because I'll be honest, if I can go every day, I would, but you got to say, there has to be a limit to yourself, and say, no, you're only going to do it these days. And it makes it also helps for the anticipation for that day to arrive, and you go with more, I guess more enthusiasm to try to get what you want to get.
Yeah. I find, like, to me, that's my biggest problem, where I feel like, I want to do things. I want to keep, like a great example, and is I was doing a daily podcast for a while, because I was like, I just want to, share as much as I can and talk as much as I can. But I never really thought, well, what if the listeners don't even want this? And so sure enough, when I asked, it wasn't that they didn't want it. It was just for them even really kind of hard to keep up, because they got other things going on. They have other podcasts they want to listen to, or, and it would become that if they missed 1 or 2 shows, all of a sudden they're behind like 4. And so I had to balance that out as well, to say, like, okay, look, what is it you're really wanting to do? What's important to you? And so that's why the daily podcast in that sense went away. And so, I think it's important, because a lot of us, especially when we get onto that first idea, we get excited and we start putting everything into it. And it's it's like, that's great. But also you want to make sure you keep everything balanced, because what will happen is it'll get too much, and it's just before you know it, you're like, oh no. And sometimes out of your own control, you have to let it go. So, Yeah, I think that's always an important thing, and that's true. Everyone, nobody has ever answered that question with, "I try to stay as unbalanced as possible."
Yeah. That's true.
Balance is extremely important.
There you
So,
go.
at this time, it is time to get into our Disney Power Round.
Uh-oh.
So-
Okay.
And now it's time for the Disney Power Round, where we talk favorite parks, tips, and tricks for your magical Disney trip. Let's bibbity bobbity do this.
What is your favorite park and one thing you love about it?
I guess Epcot, and the reason is the sunsets. You can get awesome sunsets from the World Showcase, which I love doing. So that's it. That's my number one thing, to be honest with you.
I've never had that answer, so that's awesome. I've had
Yeah,
Epcot,
yes.
but I've never had for the sunset, so that's awesome.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
what is a tip you would give to the first-time Disney goer?
Fast Pass Plus all the way. You know, if you want to get the Fast Passes for the rides that are usually in high demand. So I would say definitely Rivers of Light if you get a chance for that. Then all the mountains, you know, Expedition Everest, stuff like that. That's probably my first tip. Fast Pass.
Love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
300%. What would be your tip then for somebody who goes multiple times? Maybe they're starting. Maybe they're starting to get a little like, do I really want to go to Disney again?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like what I do in my case, I sort of like try to. I go like block of hours. You know, I'll do a certain hours and stuff like that, and then I'll head out and do certain different things. You know, it makes you anticipate more to get there. So, I guess that would be a thing. Yeah, just don't try to do a whole day all the time. It's just. I don't know. It's not.
Yeah, you're keeping it fresh because you're just going for, like, you telling yourself you're going for this amount of time. You're not overdoing it.
Yeah, and then if you're going a lot, try visiting the other places. You know, a thing that I like to do a lot is actually visit the resorts and take photos there. So it's not only the parks. Actually, you go to resorts and let's go check out this place. Let's go over there. Let's go to Disney Springs. You know, just keep it mixed.
I love it. All right. So I want to, before we sign off here, I do want to give you some time. Let everybody know where can they find out more about Luis, and I know you got your Instagram, so please be sure to share, you know, all the links that you want. Of course, guys, we'll have it in the show notes, but Luis, go ahead and let them know where they can find more about you.
Well, yeah, I actually set up a page. There's a page called DisneyNuts.me, and it is a real web page, and it's got all the links of where they can find me. You can find me on Facebook under Disney Nuts under the same username. I usually post photos there as often as I do on Instagram, and they're usually full size. Instagram, as you know, Flickr as well. I'm under the same name, Disney Nuts, or you can find me under Luis Garcia. I'm under there as well, and I think that's about it. Yeah, I'm not on any of the other ones. Yeah, it's basically Instagram, Facebook, and Flickr. Yeah, there you go.
It's not hard to find you. You're there, huh?
Yeah,
they're all
Twitter.
the same, which is great.
Yeah, and I'm on Twitter also. I usually don't post much stuff on Twitter, but I do every once in a while throw a photo out there. So
Yeah, you got to be on Twitter. Everybody got.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
before we do sign off here, the closing question I ask is, you know, for you to give some advice, you know, maybe some parting words of wisdom that you'd like to leave with our listeners. Like I said, a lot of the main focus of the podcast is to hopefully inspire and encourage other people to get up and move. And so, like, nowadays we're living in a time where a lot of, you know, you see a lot of, you know, Facebook ads and stuff like that talking about, you know, I made over $1 million in a day, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. And that's, you know, all good and dandy, but I'd like to be real in the sense of not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody is, you know, wanting to quit their 9 to 5. But I believe everybody has goals that they want to achieve, that they should do, whether it's losing weight, whether it's being a better employee, you know, whether it's doing something like this, like an Instagram account. And those are things that people should get into because, you know, some people might, you know, look at your account and be like, well, what's the big deal? He's not making, you know, money. He has a job and they're just pictures. But, you know, something I always like to point out is always take yourself out of the equation and put yourself in someone else's shoes. There are so many people who never get to visit Disney, who maybe never will.
Exactly.
And they get to experience the joy that Disney can bring, even if it's just through the smallest glimpse, which is your photos. But
Yep.
you make people smile, you make people feel good. And to me, that's why it's important for people to go with their goals, even if they feel like it's small or not, of any value. So what would be some advice to those people who are maybe they're on that fence of, should I really try to do this or not?
Well, the first thing is do it for yourself. To be honest, and it comes out through the photos. I'll be honest with you. If you really like it, don't compare yourself with other people, because there's people who have more followers than me. There's people who have less. There are people who have more likes, and there are people who have less. And that's fine by me. But I do it for myself, and for the person who's starting off, do it for yourself. Do it for fun. Do it because you love it. Do it because you want to, share the stuff. You want to share the magic. So that will be my first thing. And if you do it naturally, without the intention, with the wrong reasons, the people will come, because they see that through the photos. I get messages all the time. Oh, you're such a nice guy, this and that. And, that's probably the first thing. Do it for yourself. The second, as for improving, just, YouTube videos are out there to help. Ask questions of other photographers, other photos that you see out there that you like, and say, hey, what do you shoot this with? And what are the settings? And many of us are willing to answer any questions. I'm more than welcome to answer questions about settings and stuff like that. I started as well from the bottom, and little by little, you get to where you are, and that's, do it for yourself. That's my number one thing that I tell everybody. Just and even if you're using an iPhone, you don't need a fancy camera to start, your account. If you want to use your iPhone and shoot, that's great.
It's awesome. Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good.
Keywords there, little by little. It's not necessarily going to be right off the bat immediate 100,000 followers.
No, that's fair.
It's gonna take time. That's awesome.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
Well, Luis, I want to thank you for allowing us to take your time here, and I know that the listeners definitely found value, and I really hope you guys will go and check out Luis's stuff. And like he said, feel free to contact and ask him questions. I'm not technical, so don't ask me those questions. Ask Luis. But if you have a question to ask me about something else, always feel free to contact us, because we got no problem there. So, I just want to thank you again, Luis, for taking the time out and talking with us today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Again, it's an honor to be able to be here and chat with you. Really, it's awesome.
That is something that is a continuous trend. You do it for yourself. You do it because you love what you're doing. And it's so important to believe that and understand that, because there's so many times when you are going to want to quit, when you're going to get frustrated, when you potentially will have to stop for a small amount of time. And the only thing that's going to get you to get back at it and to push yourself to do it is that you're doing it for yourself first. And it's like I mentioned before, in a previous podcast, this might sound mean, but it's I say it in the most positive way possible. You need to do this because you're selfish, and you're not being selfish by hurting, because you're hurting people. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're being selfish because you want to help people, and the only way to help people is by doing it yourself first, helping yourself in a way that's going to help you to continue on your goal, your mission. If you've ever been on a plane, one of the safety tips that I disagree with, and cancel the words of anyone ever having to go through this, and I pray to God nobody has to go through a situation like this. But they'll say if something happens and the air masks fall down, if you're with your child, put yours on first before you put on your child's. And that always just boggled my mind. Like, that bugged me, because I'm like, no, like, I want my kids' protection and safety first. And the reason why they tell you to do that is because they say, if you are not able to help them, what help are you going to give them? In other words, if you're busy putting on their mask and then you faint, what good are you now? The likelihood of you being able to put on your mask very quickly and then helping them and then being able to continue helping is much more greater. And that's why they tell you to put the mask on first. And so it's the same thing with anything you do. It's not about you being selfish because you're thinking about me. It's about, I need to get through this, and I need to do this, and I need to want to love to do this more than not more than being lazy and just relaxing and not pursuing this dream or passion that you may have, I need to love this for myself first, because I know there's going to be times when it feels like I'm the only one. There's going to be times when there's nobody else noticing or saying anything or appreciating, at least in a way that you know that they're doing that. Maybe they're appreciating it, in silence, but they're not coming to you and telling you. There's going to be times when you feel 100% alone, and the only way that's going to push you toward your goal and keep going through it is the love and the passion that you have inside for it. And, being able to speak to the people we've had on this show and people like Luis, it's over and over again proving truths. Like, guys, I'm not telling you this just because it's something that sounds good. I'm telling you this because I've had people and experiences, even in my own life, where it's true. And, it's funny because some of us might look at what Luis has and like what Mickey's Premium had and what Main Street Press had and, all of these, Lou Mangello, WDW Radio, Disney Lifestyles, and we might get envious and think like, in it, because I honestly, like I've told y'all before, that's something I struggle with. I say, how do they do it? How do I get to where they're at? And I've had to back up and say, hold on. They got to it the same way that you're going to get to it, which is work and patience and love. That's the missing formula. The love that they had for what they're doing is what helps them to push through those frustrations, those, times when it feels like they can't do it anymore. The passion, the love they have for what they do is what keeps them going. And so, to me, with Luis talking to him, like I said, I understand, and I know photographers out there listening can appreciate how much work goes into, getting a perfect picture. Like Luis said, he's taking thousands of pictures, and he has to look through every single one to find that one that he can now kind of perfect to make look better if he could, to share it on a social media account of Instagram or Flickr or Facebook. And I don't belittle it, but what I'm saying is you can, right? You can look at it and understand, oh, well, that's just social media. It's not a big deal. Like, what if Instagram goes like MySpace? Nobody ever sees this picture again. That would be sad. That'd be frustrating. That would be angry. But like Luis said, I'll just go in another place. He has to share his photos because he loves to spread that joy. And that's the difference. That's the difference of people quitting and never doing it again. You never hear about it. You never hear about what they're doing or any of their dreams again. And the people who continue, where all of a sudden it looks like they just showed up and they're like, whoa, these guys are huge, or these guys are doing their dream and they've made it. But you didn't see all that work they put in before, how they kept going and how they didn't quit and give up even at those times when it felt like they should. And like I said on the show, every picture that Luis is sharing and every podcast that, any podcaster is given that we've had on this show, it's amazing because you don't know how much joy, you don't know how much appreciation, how much encouragement, how much inspiration you're putting in other people's lives. And that to me is what, again, this show is all about. Hopefully this show got you inspired. If you're a photographer, to get up and go. Don't get frustrated because you're taking 500 shots and you're not finding a good one. It's time you take 1,000 shots and find that good one. If you're somebody who's trying to make a name on social media so you can get, eyes on what your art is and what you love to do, don't get frustrated because you don't have any right now. It's time that you start really paying attention of the best times to post and start posting and start using the hashtags the right way, or start getting involved with the right people to create a relationship and a collaboration to get going. Like, you have to keep moving. If you have a love or passion for it, you're going to keep doing it. If you don't, it's going to fizzle out. And that's why, like Luis said, you got to do this for yourself first. So I want to thank you guys for listening. Please be sure to go follow his account. His link will be in the show notes, but it's at Disney_nuts. You will not be disappointed. It is incredible, the pictures that he has on there. Really fantastic job. If you're somebody who misses Disney as much as I do, this will definitely make you feel a little closer to it. So be sure to check it out. Go follow him there. And as always, guys, thank you for listening. Have a great night, day, weekend. Whenever you are listening to this, stay magical.
This was the Talk About the Magic podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay magical.